Hello, welcome to this slideshow, this short slideshow about master plots, classic plots with a modern twist. And this is just a short overview of the master plots assignment, and there's much more detailed information in the handout. So, for many centuries, playwrights and authors have stolen stories from previous stories and built their stories upon them. And for example, I'm going to click along here. We're going to talk about King Lear. This is a Shakespeare tragedy play. And this play features King Lear, who is the patriarch of a vast kingdom. He loses his estate due to manipulation and deceit of two daughters after disowning his innocent, loyal daughter. Does that sound familiar? Even if you're not familiar with King Lear, you may know of families where an elderly relative has lost resources or their home or other assets due to manipulation and deceit by some family members, while others are trying to protect them, and perhaps their efforts to protect have been misinterpreted and they've been disowned. So in the novel A Thousand Acres, Jane Smiley worked with the basic plot of King Lear to craft her own story. And I'm just going to read the Amazon review here. Aging Larry Cook announces his intention to turn over his 1,000-acre farm, one of the largest in Zebulon County, Iowa, to his three daughters, Caroline, Ginny, and Rose. And in King Lear, the daughters would have been Goneril, Regan, and Cordelia. A man of harsh sensibilities, Cook carves Caroline out of the deal. She's the loyal, innocent daughter, because she has the nerve to be less than enthusiastic about her father's generosity. She, in the novel, questions what he's doing and, basically is acting in his best interests, but he doesn't understand that. While Larry Cook deteriorates into a pathetic drunk, his daughters are left to cope with the often grim realities of life on a family farm, from battering husbands to cutthroat lenders. And there's also another element of tragedy in there, in which Larry Cook, we gradually learn, has been abusive towards one of his daughters, and that also comes out over time. So another popular tragedy play that is often used for modern plots is Hamlet, Shakespeare's Hamlet. And this is the story of a young prince who learns from his father's ghost that his father's brother, now married to his mother, killed his father and thereby robbed the prince of his crown. Now, today, we don't have lots of kings and princes and so forth, but we have many dysfunctional family situations where there are dead fathers, uncles who have married mothers, etc. And one of the more famous versions of Hamlet is The Lion King. So the originators of the Lion King movie used the plot of Hamlet to build their story of Simba and his story. So in this story, a young lion mistakenly believes he caused his father's death in a wildebeest stampede, when in fact the father's evil brother, Scar, murdered him so that he could steal the throne of the pride. This young lion goes into exile, but eventually gains courage from his father's ghost, sort of, to reclaim his throne. A more literary version of Hamlet is the story of Edgar Sawtelle, which was an Oprah book selection a few years ago by David Wroblewski. And I'll just read the Amazon review. Born mute, speaking only in sign, Edgar Sawtelle leads an idyllic life with his parents on their farm in remote northern Wisconsin. For generations, the Sawtelles have raised and trained a fictional breed of dog whose thoughtful companionship is epitomized by Almondine, Edgar's lifelong friend and ally. But with the unexpected return of Claude, that would be Claudius in Hamlet, Edgar's paternal uncle, turmoil consumes the Sawtells' once peaceful home. When Edgar's father dies suddenly and a little bit mysteriously, Claude insinuates himself into the life of the farm and into Edgar's mother's affections. Grief-stricken and bewildered, Edgar tries to prove that Claude played a role in his father's death, but his plan backfires spectacularly. Forced to flee into the vast wilderness. Sound familiar? Where does Simba go after Scar chases him away? Edgar comes of age in the wild, fighting for his survival and that of the 3 yearling dogs who follow him. But his need to face his father's murderer and his devotion to the Sawtell dogs turn Edgar ever homeward. So that's Edgar Sawtell. So your task, should you choose to embark upon it, is to develop a rough draft synopsis of a modern-day version of your master plot. And there are specific plays that I recommend working with in the handout. You can also pick another one, but I do want it to be an older work from, say, the 17th century or sooner, earlier, Shakespeare, Greek tragedies, etc. I don't want a rewrite of a movie that's 10 years old. So play with the story according to the directions in the handout, and then share it on the discussion board. And then take it with you into the future. Who knows what might happen? Maybe you have the next best-selling novel or screenplay. So here's an example. Shakespeare's play, Coriolanus, is, I think it's a tragedy play, but it's about a politician. So what happens is that Rome faces riots when grain is withheld from the citizens. Citizens blame the general Marcius, who says the plebes aren't worthy of grain because they don't serve in the military. Marcius is denounced by the tribune. He leaves the city, but he returns as a war hero with the nickname Coriolanus. His mother encourages him to run for consul, and he wins the support of the Senate and the commoners, or so it seems. Others plot against him, stir up the people, and Coriolanus rants against democracy. Coriolanus eventually is condemned and banished, but he returns with former enemies, the Volscians, to invade Rome. His mom succeeds in dissuading him from destroying Rome. He makes a peace treaty, but he's killed for his betrayal by the Volscians. Actually, I don't remember if he's killed by the Volscians or killed because he sided with them. In any case. So, when you are working on this, you can start by writing a couple of paragraphs that summarize your plot. And so here's my summary inspired by Coriolanus. Citizens are protesting the incompetence of the government and are especially upset about the problems with the food supply. Now, I'm thinking that maybe this food supply problem is caused by a chronic long-term drought that's come about because of global warming. And even though there is still food, it's not as abundant as it once was. It's very expensive, and many people cannot afford to buy sufficient food. There's no such thing as food banks anymore because there's basically no one's giving away food because they're trying to protect their own supplies. However, one charismatic individual has gained the trust of the people and perhaps might offer solutions, but his or her arrogant opponent is bent on stirring up the masses. In the meantime, some kind of conflict or war has erupted between the U.S. and another country, and an invasion or attack is possible. Okay, so as I think about this, I'm thinking maybe this is a bit of a manufactured conflict. Maybe it's against a small, somewhat, I don't want to say defenseless, but not a very strong country. Maybe it's an island in the Caribbean, like Grenada, which we invaded in 1984, and a place where victory is ultimately assured. So the U.S. is victorious, and the general in charge, General John Corioli, comes home to victory parades and talk of entering politics. He doesn't want to get into politics, but finally decides to run for president and is elected by the thinnest of margins. He has continued conflict with the Congress, especially alienating senators from agricultural states by vetoing agricultural subsidies, which are keeping farms going in this time of drought. So his mom and others try to help smooth things out, but he eventually is forced to resign. He goes to the country he invaded, and he's in disguise. He's welcomed by his former enemies and joins with them. Perhaps he's realizing that life on a small island can be pretty pleasant, if a bit dull. But he changes his mind after his wife and son talk to him. However, the former enemy, filled with a sense of betrayal, kills him. So that's my paragraph, and then next I'm going to list all the archetypal characters in the play and alternate realities and actions. Now I'm not going to spell these all out in detail, but I'm just going to give you some ideas. So my list would have Coriolanus and his mom, his son, his wife, the other guy, the enemy, etc. But as you think about your story, and you're working with a classic plot that might include kings, armies, or a Greek chorus, think about what might be a substitute. You could have a president, a dictator, a corporate CEO. An army could be an army of angry mothers, or a consumer army. A Greek chorus could be, as in men sitting on a fence or a porch making comments. Could be kids on a playground. There's many ways you could, create a chorus. And also think about metaphors or analogies for events like murder, killing, battles, army. Your character doesn't have to literally be in an army or go to battle just because the original play had that character doing that. The play could be about killing desire, ambition, love, animals, dreams, hopes. It could be about battling forces of ignorance, using words as weapons, battling bullying, racism, ageism. Could be about firing people, firing off emails, using catapults to throw ideas overboard, or sink companies instead of ships. And instead of some of the literal actions that might be in the classic story, for example, eye gouging, which happens in Oedipus the King, and he is literally blinded. Think about other ways in which, for example, a character might be blinded. Literally, through car accident, rare disease, untreated condition, a chemical or industrial accident, or through metaphorical blindness, perhaps an unwillingness to leave the house or look further than the end of the driveway, a refusal to engage in learning or transformational experiences, memory loss that clouds judgment or causes dementia so that the character can't see others for who they really are. So if you want to do this little assignment, review the handouts and other resources because there's much more detail in them, and have fun with Hamlet, King Lear, Oedipus the King, or your favorite classic drama. But do make it be a classic drama. And I look forward to reading the synopsis of a potential future runaway bestseller. Thank you.